A couple of things just about this incident. Certainly the thing that stands out to us is this was a situation that did not need to occur.
Mark Sanchez has finally broken his silence in court. He shockingly told everything about how he left a 69-year-old man permanently disfigured and revealed details the surveillance footage didn't capture. But what came next shocked everyone. Sanchez admitted this wasn't the first time. Before I break it down, here's the backstory. The court revelations. On October 7th, 2025, Mark Sanchez appeared in Marion County Superior Court, facing charges that read like a nightmare. A level 5 felony battery resulting in serious bodily injury, along with misdemeanor charges of battery with injury, unlawful entry of a motor vehicle, and public intoxication. The felony charge alone carried a potential sentence of 1 to 6 years in prison and up to a $10,000 fine. But what truly shocked observers was what the court documents revealed. This wasn't just another celebrity mishap or a case of wrong place, wrong time. The probable cause affidavit painted a damning picture. Sanchez had acted in a rude, insolent manner by shoving his victim and forcibly entering a vehicle. The details were disturbing, the evidence overwhelming, and the injuries sustained by both parties were, in the words of prosecutors, incredibly significant. Judge granted Sanchez's motion to waive the initial hearing, pushing his next court appearance, a pre-trial conference, to November 4th, 2025 at 8:30 a.m. The legal maneuvering had begun, but the court of public opinion had already rendered its verdict, and the story behind how Sanchez ended up in that courtroom. It's even more shocking than anyone initially imagined. To understand the full scope of this tragedy, we need to rewind to October 4th, 2025, a night that would change multiple lives forever. Downtown Indianapolis was alive with energy that Friday night. The city, known as one of the safest neighborhoods in the metro area with violent crime rates down citywide and a nearly 30% drop in homicides in the first half of 2025, was hosting sports analysts and fans ahead of the Colts-Raiders game scheduled for the following day. Among the crowd of broadcasters was Mark Sanchez, the Fox Sports analyst who had flown in specifically to call the game. But something went terribly wrong that night. Surveillance footage from multiple cameras around the Marriott and nearby establishments captured approximately 25 minutes of Sanchez stumbling through the downtown streets. The video showed a man who was clearly not himself, disoriented, changing directions repeatedly, appearing heavily intoxicated as he wandered past Loftmiller's pub and eatery. According to police reports and witness statements, Sanchez smelled strongly of alcohol and was slurring his words. But perhaps most bizarrely, witnesses reported seeing Sanchez doing wind sprints in the alley, running back and forth in the narrow space behind the hotels at well past midnight. It was erratic behavior that would soon escalate into something far more dangerous. At approximately 12:35 a.m., Perry Toll, a 69-year-old truck driver, pulled his vehicle into the loading dock alley near the Westin Hotel and Indianapolis Marriott downtown. Toll worked for a company specializing in commercial cooking oil recycling and disposal. Not exactly glamorous work, but honest work. He was there to collect used oil from the hotel kitchens, a routine task he'd performed countless times before. Toll, who used hearing aids but didn't have them and due to the loud noise of his truck, had no idea he was about to have the worst night of his life. What happened next would be captured on multiple surveillance cameras, creating an indisputable record of the violence that unfolded.
What's your understanding of Mark Sanchez's condition here? Was he intoxicated? Do you know that for sure?
Well, one of the allegations is that he was intoxicated. He has been charged with public intoxication.
According to the probable cause affidavit and Toll's detailed account to police, Sanchez jogged into the alley, approached the truck, and without any warning or permission, opened the driver's door and climbed inside. This wasn't a polite conversation about parking. This was an invasion, an aggressive, threatening act that immediately put the elderly driver on the defensive. Sanchez allegedly told Toll he needed to move, that he couldn't park where he was, claiming he had spoken to the hotel manager about moving the truck, but Toll was simply doing his job, parked exactly where he was supposed to be for his scheduled pickup. The confrontation was as unnecessary as it was inexplicable.
A couple of things just about this incident. Certainly the thing that stands out to us is this was a situation that did not need to occur. You have the allegations involve a 38-year-old man becoming involved in an altercation with a 69-year-old man who sustained significant and very severe injuries as a result of that altercation.
When Toll tried to retrieve his phone to call his supervisor, Sanchez blocked him. The situation was escalating rapidly. The 38-year-old former athlete, still in excellent physical condition despite his retirement years earlier, now began to physically assault the elderly man who was simply trying to earn a living. Court documents and police reports detail how Sanchez shoved Tolle against a wall, then threw him against a dumpster and nearby pallets. The violence was shocking in its its intensity and one-sidedness. Here was a professional athlete, trained in physical competition, unleashing his strength on a man nearly twice his age who was just trying to do his job. A witness who happened to be in a nearby car reported seeing the two men recording each other on their cell phones before the physical altercation began, a bizarre detail that adds another layer of confusion to an already chaotic scene. But any recording was quickly forgotten as the situation turned violent. Toll, fearing for his life and with no way to escape from the much younger, stronger, and clearly aggressive man, first attempted to defend himself with pepper spray. He deployed the defensive spray directly at Sanchez, hoping it would stop the attack and allow him to get away. But incredibly, devastatingly, the pepper spray didn't work. Sanchez, in his intoxicated and enraged state, kept coming. What happened next would leave both men in the hospital, one fighting for his life and the other permanently disfigured. And the court documents would reveal that Toll, believing Sanchez was trying to kill him, had no choice but to reach for the knife he kept in his truck for work purposes. The elderly truck driver, backed into a corner by a man he didn't know and couldn't stop, made a split-second decision that would save his life but leave both men scarred forever. Toll stabbed Sanchez multiple times, 2 to 3 strikes to the upper torso, including the chest, side, and hand. The surveillance footage captured what happened next in horrifying detail. A bloodied Mark Sanchez stumbled away from the scene, staggering down the Indianapolis sidewalks with stab wounds bleeding profusely. He would eventually make his way to a nearby bar, where a bartender would help him before emergency services arrived. Sanchez was transported to Eskenazi Hospital in critical condition, his injuries severe enough that he required immediate surgery. The stab wounds had come dangerously close to vital organs, and for a time it was unclear whether the former NFL star would survive. He would later be upgraded to stable condition, but the physical scars from that night would be the least of his problems. Meanwhile, Perry Toll was also rushed to Methodist Hospital, his injuries equally horrific but in a different way. The 69-year-old had sustained what can only be described as devastating facial trauma.
And then, can you tell us a little more about the victim here? We know that he's 69 years old. He's a delivery truck driver. Do you know roughly how tall he was? And there's also been some reporting that he uses hearing aids but didn't have them on at the time.
That is correct. One of the things that he makes reference to is that he did need the use of hearing aids.
The laceration to Toll's face was so severe, it went through his left cheek and into his tongue. The injury would require extensive medical treatment and would leave him permanently disfigured. He also suffered injuries to his head, jaw, and neck. The scarring would be a permanent reminder of the night he was simply trying to do his job and ended up fighting for his life. So severe were Toll's injuries that he was unable to attend his own son's wedding, missing one of the most important family moments of his life because of the trauma inflicted upon him by a drunken stranger in an alley. When police arrived at the hospital to interview Sanchez, he told detectives he had little memory of the event, claiming he could only recall grabbing for a window. He couldn't identify his attacker or even accurately describe the location where the altercation had occurred. Whether this was genuine memory loss from intoxication and trauma or a convenient story to avoid accountability would become a matter for the courts to decide. But the evidence was overwhelming. The surveillance footage told a clear, unambiguous story. Police obtained warrants for Sanchez's clothing and cell phone and recovered the knife from Toll's truck. Every piece of physical evidence, every camera angle, every witness statement pointed to the same conclusion. Mark Sanchez had been the aggressor in an attack that left an innocent man permanently scarred. The man who had once been celebrated for his athletic prowess was now facing the consequences of channeling that physical power against someone who posed no threat to him whatsoever. Justice, lawsuits, and political fallout. What unfolded in the days following the altercation revealed not just the legal consequences Mark Sanchez would face, but also how quickly the incident became politicized, how the victim sought accountability beyond criminal charges, and how public perception shifted dramatically as the truth emerged. Initially, on October 5th, 2025, Sanchez was arrested at the hospital and charged with 3 misdemeanors: battery resulting in injury, public intoxication, and unlawful entry of a motor vehicle. He posted a $300 bond and was processed without a traditional booking photo due to being hospitalized. But Marion County Prosecutor Ryan Mears knew that misdemeanor charges didn't adequately reflect the severity of what had occurred. As more medical information became available about Perry Toll's injuries, it became clear that stronger charges were warranted.
What was it for you that you decided to change to go from misdemeanor to felony? What did you see that caused you to do that?
It was really just a review of the medical information made available to us and then having a follow-up conversation with the victim. When we initially made contact with the victim, it's important to note that he had not yet received medical treatment.
On October 6th, prosecutors upgraded the charges to include a level 5 felony battery, resulting in serious bodily injury based on the severe and permanent nature of Toll's facial injuries, which would cause permanent scarring and disfigurement. Marion County Prosecutor Ryan Mears and IMPD Chief Chris Bailey held a joint press conference on October 6th, emphasizing that the surveillance footage matched Toll's account completely and that this was a case of unprovoked violence that should never have occurred.
A couple of things just about this incident. Certainly the thing that stands out to us is this was a situation that did not need to occur. You have the allegations involve a 38-year-old man becoming involved in an altercation with a 69-year-old man who sustained significant and very severe injuries as a result of that altercation.
Mears was particularly emphatic about accountability, making it clear that celebrity status would provide no protection in his jurisdiction. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you do for a living. I don't care where you live. If you come into our city, commit violence, we will use all the tools at our disposal to hold you accountable. Meanwhile, Perry Toll was ruled to have acted in clear self-defense, and no charges were filed against him. Indiana has some of the most robust self-defense laws in the country, including stand-your-ground provisions that eliminate any duty to retreat.
So I don't know if there are stand-your-ground laws in Indianapolis. I'm not familiar with it. I'm sure you can educate us. But is this one of those cases where the 69-year-old man was in fear of his life, and that's why he stabbed Mark Sanchez? Is that your understanding?
Well, that's currently the allegations, and Indiana has some of the most robust self-defense laws in the entire country. And when you talk about stand your ground, it means you have no duty to retreat.
But Toll wasn't content to let the criminal justice system be his only avenue for accountability. On October 6th, 2025, the same day prosecutors upgraded Sanchez's charges, Perry Toll filed a civil lawsuit in Marion Superior Court. The lawsuit named two defendants, Mark Sanchez and Fox Corporation itself. The complaint accused Sanchez of intentional assault and battery causing permanent harm to Toll, but the inclusion of Fox Corporation as a defendant was particularly significant and potentially devastating for the network. The lawsuit alleged negligent hiring, retention, and supervision, claiming that Fox knew or should have known of Sanchez's history of drinking and potential for harmful conduct. This was an explosive allegation. The lawsuit essentially argued that Fox had failed in its duty to properly vet and supervise Sanchez, despite what the complaint characterized as his documented history of alcohol-related incidents and questionable judgment. The complaint sought unspecified compensatory and punitive damages, plus attorney fees, with a jury trial requested. Fox Corporation declined to comment on the lawsuit. The civil case opened up a Pandora's box of questions about corporate responsibility and the extent to which employers should be held liable for their employees' actions, particularly when those actions occur off the clock, but while on company business. If the case went to trial and a jury found Fox liable for negligent supervision, the financial damages could be substantial. More importantly, the discovery process could expose internal communications about Sanchez's behavior, hiring, and any concerns that may have been raised about his conduct. Through his attorney, Toll spoke publicly about the incident for the first time. In statements to the media, Toll described himself as thankful to be alive, crediting his faith for guiding his hands during the terrifying encounter. "Faith guided my hands," he told reporters, describing how he believed divine intervention had helped him survive the attack. A friend of Toll's described him as a peaceful man who was simply doing his job that night. The characterization painted a stark contrast between the elderly truck driver trying to make an honest living and the wealthy former athlete who had attacked him without cause. The photos of Toll's injuries that were released to the media were shocking and difficult to look at. His facial laceration was deep enough to penetrate through his cheek and damage his tongue, requiring extensive medical treatment and leaving him permanently disfigured. The injury meant he had already missed his son's wedding due to his hospitalization, a family milestone stolen from him by senseless violence. While the legal proceedings moved forward, the incident sparked an unexpected and troubling political controversy that revealed how quickly misinformation can spread and be weaponized in the age of social media. However, as of his November 4th, 2025 court date, Sanchez faces up to 6 years in prison if convicted of the level 5 felony battery charge. The misdemeanor charges, public intoxication, unlawful entry of a motor vehicle, and the lesser battery charge, could add additional jail time and fines on top of that potential prison sentence. Legal experts who analyzed the case noted that Sanchez's legal team would almost certainly explore a plea deal rather than risk a jury trial, given the overwhelming video evidence, the sympathetic elderly victim, and the severity of the injuries inflicted. A plea agreement might allow him to avoid the maximum prison sentence in exchange for admitting guilt, accepting probation, completing anger management and substance abuse treatment programs, and paying substantial restitution to toll for his medical expenses and suffering. But even a favorable plea deal would carry lasting and potentially life-altering consequences. A felony conviction would affect his ability to work in broadcasting or any other public-facing career, his ability to travel internationally for work or pleasure, his ability to own firearms, and fundamentally, his entire public image and reputation. The stigma of being a convicted felon who viciously attacked an elderly man simply trying to earn a living would be nearly impossible to overcome, regardless of whatever spin his public relations team might attempt. A pattern of controversies and the fall from grace. To truly understand how Mark Sanchez ended up in that Indianapolis courtroom facing felony charges, we need to examine the troubling pattern of controversies, questionable decisions, and escalating behavior that marked his journey from NFL stardom to disgrace. This wasn't a single terrible mistake by an otherwise exemplary person. It was the culmination of years of incidents that had been overlooked, minimized, or swept under the rug because of his athletic talent and celebrity status. The story begins long before that October night in Indianapolis. Mark Travis John Sanchez was born on November 11, 1986, in Long Beach, California, into a close-knit Mexican-American family. His high school career was spectacular, and at USC he led the Trojans to a 12-1 record in 2008, throwing for 3,207 yards and 34 touchdowns. His crowning achievement came in the 2009 Rose Bowl, where he threw for 413 yards and 4 touchdowns, earning offensive MVP honors. The New York Jets selected Sanchez 5th overall in the 2009 NFL Draft, signing him to a 5-year, $50 million contract. As a rookie, he led the Jets to an AFC Championship game appearance and repeated the feat in 2010. Sanchez joined Ben Roethlisberger as the only quarterbacks to reach conference championships in their first 2 seasons. He was young, talented, handsome, successful, the complete package. But then the cracks began to show, and they started appearing much earlier than most people realized. In April 2006, while a 19-year-old redshirt freshman at USC, Sanchez was arrested on suspicion of sexually assaulting a female USC student. The alleged incident occurred around 12:30 a.m. on April 26, 2006, and Sanchez was arrested later that day at the Cardinal Gardens apartment complex near campus, with bail set at $200,000. USC immediately placed him on interim suspension, prohibiting him from attending classes, participating in university activities, or being on campus premises. The university's vice president for student affairs stated at the time, "We need to understand better what's going on before we can make a determination of anything. We take these things very seriously. We don't know the facts, but the nature of the allegations are serious." Interestingly, Sanchez had attended a rape awareness seminar on the USC campus earlier in April 2006, just weeks before the allegation. Security footage from the 901 Club bar showed Sanchez arriving at 11:21 p.m. on April 25th using a fake Arizona ID under the name Jordan Traver Uddle and leaving alone at 12:59 a.m. on April 26th. On June 2nd, 2006, prosecutors decided not to file charges, citing insufficient evidence to prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt. Medical examinations of both parties were described as inconclusive for force, and the charge evaluation worksheet noted it was a one-on-one situation, where the accuser admitted to consensual kissing and petting beforehand. A representative for Sanchez later stated that he was falsely accused, cooperated fully with the investigation, and the claim was rejected by the DA's office. Sanchez was cleared legally and returned to USC, where he would go on to have a successful college career. But the incident raised serious questions about his judgment, his behavior around alcohol, and his treatment of women, questions that would resurface years later. The next major controversy came in early 2011, when Sanchez was already an established NFL quarterback with the New York Jets. Sports gossip site Deadspin reported that Sanchez, then 24 years old, had engaged in a brief romantic and sexual relationship with Eliza Kruger, a 17-year-old high school senior from Greenwich, Connecticut. The two met on New Year's Eve 2010 at Lavo nightclub in Manhattan, where Kruger had used a fake ID to enter the 21-plus venue. According to the detailed reports that emerged, she disclosed her age as 17 to Sanchez during their conversation, to which he reportedly replied, "Well, we can still talk, but I can't see you until you're 18. She countered that 17 is legal in New York. After giving her tickets to a Jets game and taking her to dinner at the upscale restaurant Nobu, Sanchez brought her to his mansion in Bedminster, New Jersey, where they had a consensual sexual encounter. Kruger had researched the ages of consent beforehand, 17 in New York and 16 in New Jersey, and later posted excitedly on Facebook, "Mark F. Asterisk, T. King Sanchez just texted me." While technically legal in both New York and New Jersey, though it would have been illegal in 12 other states, including California, the relationship drew widespread criticism and raised serious ethical questions. Child psychologist Dr. Susan Bartell called it inappropriate, and marketing expert Ben Sterner said it hurt Sanchez's image and damaged the NFL's reputation. Kruger's lawyer, Richard Kendall, initially sent a denial letter to Deadspin, calling the claims entirely false and threatening action for intentional emotional distress. But the story was corroborated with photos Kruger had taken of Sanchez's bedroom and communications between them. The Jets refused to comment on his private life, and the controversy eventually faded from the headlines. But the damage to his public image was done. On the field, Sanchez's career began its decline. The 2012 season brought the moment that would define his NFL career in the worst possible way, the infamous butt fumble. In a Thanksgiving night game against the New England Patriots, Sanchez ran directly into the backside of his own offensive lineman, fumbling the ball, which was returned for a touchdown. The play was voted the most embarrassing moment in NFL history and would follow Sanchez for the rest of his life, becoming an internet meme that would never die. His Jets career ended with a 2013 preseason shoulder injury, and he was released in 2014. What followed were years of backup roles with multiple teams. He served as a backup for the Denver Broncos in 2016, the Dallas Cowboys in 2016, the Chicago Bears in 2017, and the Washington Redskins in 2018. He retired in July 2019 with an overall NFL record of 37-36 as a starter. But before his retirement, there was one more significant controversy that further damaged his reputation and raised questions about his character. On April 13, 2018, the NFL announced that Sanchez, who was a free agent at the time, had been suspended for the first 4 games of the 2018 season for violating the league's performance-enhancing drugs policy. Sanchez expressed shock at the positive test, stating, "I was blindsided by the news, and I want to say unequivocally that I have never cheated or attempted to gain a competitive advantage by using a banned performance-enhancing substance, unknowing supplement contamination." He noted that he had passed 72 previous drug tests over his career and that his supplement regimen had remained consistent for 5 years. The supplement contamination excuse was met with widespread skepticism and mockery by fans and media members, especially given his underwhelming career stats, a 37-35 record as a starter with more interceptions than touchdowns in his later years, which showed absolutely no evidence of any kind of enhanced performance. The suspension came at a low point in his career, following years of backup roles, and likely hindered his free agent market. However, on November 19, 2018, Sanchez signed with the Washington Redskins as a backup, immediately eligible to play since he had already served the suspension period as a free agent. Sanchez appeared in 2 games for the Redskins, starting 1, but struggled significantly. He completed 19 of 35 passes for 138 yards, 0 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions before being benched. His signing reignited controversy online, with many critics pointing out that the NFL allowed a player with a recent PED violation back into the league, while others, like Colin Kaepernick, remained unsigned amid protest-related backlash. Social media users highlighted this disparity, noting that Sanchez's PED issue and past off-field incidents did not prevent his return to the league. After retiring in 2019, Sanchez seemed to have finally found his calling in broadcasting. He joined ESPN as a college football analyst immediately after retiring, then transitioned to Fox Sports in July 2021 as an NFL game analyst and studio contributor. He appeared energetic and knowledgeable on air, breaking down plays with enthusiasm and expertise. In September 2025, Sanchez even expanded his role by launching a new digital series called Rear View on Fox Sports Digital, featuring weekly interviews with NFL players conducted from their cars. Everything seemed to be coming together professionally. His personal life also appeared to be stabilizing. He married actress Perry Matfeld on May 28, 2023, in a historic 16th century colonial monastery in Oaxaca, Mexico, incorporating their cultural heritage into a beautiful ceremony. He had a son, Daniel, from a previous relationship who served as a groomsman and ring bearer, and in 2025, he and Matfeld welcomed twin daughters. Sanchez described these family moments as filled with tears of joy, love, and gratitude. But the pattern of poor judgment, alcohol-related incidents, and aggressive behavior had never truly been addressed at its root. The Indianapolis incident wasn't an aberration. It was the inevitable result of decades of unchecked behavior. enabled by a system that consistently gave talented athletes chance after chance after chance, regardless of their conduct off the field. The question now is whether the justice system will finally hold him accountable in a way that his sport, his employers, and society never truly did before, and whether Mark Sanchez will finally face the reality that he needs serious help to address the issues that led him to that alley on October 4th, 2025. Love this video? Click on the cards on your screen for more,